Welcome back to the Global Ledger. I'm Justin. When people talk about a dollar crisis, they usually imagine something dramatic, like inflation in the US, collapsing treasury markets, or the dollar losing value back at home. But that's not how dollar crises usually appear. In fact, most dollar crises don't happen inside the US at all. They happen outside. Today's episode is about what a dollar crisis actually looks like beyond US borders, okay, and how it shows up, where the stress appears first, and why the center of the system often feels the shock last. This episode closes ARC VII by tying together everything we've learned about the global dollar system, and by showing how stress really propagates through it. Let's get into it. The global dollar system is asymmetric. Okay, the United States issues the reserve currency, hosts the deepest dollar markets, and controls the safest dollar collateral. Most other countries borrow in dollars, fund in dollars, or rely on dollar-based trade and finance. So when stress hits, dollars don't disappear everywhere equally. They retreat toward the center. That's why dollar crises are usually experienced as shortages, not collapses. What are the first signs of a dollar crisis? So outside the US, a dollar crisis doesn't start with inflation. It starts with rising FX swap costs, okay, widening cross-currency basis, difficulty rolling short-term dollar funding, and sudden pressure on foreign exchange reserves as well. These are balance sheet problems, not headline problems. They appear in banks, corporations, and sovereign balance sheets long before households feel anything. So as dollar funding tightens, trade finance becomes harder to secure, commodity imports become more expensive, and hedging costs will rise sharply. Countries dependent on energy imports, food imports, or external financing feel this squeeze first. And this is where dollar crises become economic crises. Okay, that's the line there. Why is it that central banks can't always fix it? Okay, domestic central banks cannot print dollars. They can raise interest rates, impose capital controls, intervene in FX markets. But those tools don't create dollar liquidity. They only manage scarcity. This is why dollar crises often force painful policy tightening, reserve depletion, or external assistance, even when inflation is not the core problem. In severe stress, dollar shortages can trigger international coordinations, okay? This is kind of the role of swap lines and backstops. Swap lines, emergency facilities, and official support can stabilize funding markets, restore confidence, and prevent disorderly collapse. But access is kind of limited, so not every country gets a backstop, which reinforces the hierarchy that we've discussed throughout ARC VII. And we've talked about that as well in previous ARCs. Why is it that the dollar often strengthens in a crisis? Okay, here's the paradox. During a dollar crisis, global demand for dollar rises. Capital moves toward safety, and the dollar often strengthens. This is not a vote of confidence in U.S. policy at all. It's a reflection of system design. The dollar is where liquidity concentrates when uncertainty rises. Okay? Very important to understand. And ARC VII that we're in now comes together here. Okay? We've explored a lot of things. And this final episode shows where all of that pressure ultimately appears, right? From reserve currencies, energy and trade finance, offshore dollar creation, dollarization, capital controls, global savings imbalance, and the limits of de-dollarization, okay? All the pressures ultimately appears, okay, here. And not at the center, but at the edges. Dollar crises are global phenomena, okay, experienced locally. So up to now, we have focused on macrostructure, okay, broadly speaking. Systems, balance sheets, institutions, and flows. But there's another layer beneath all of this, one that determines how stress transmits minute by minute, how prices move during calm and crises, and how liquidity actually behaves in real time. Okay, that layer is market microstructure. Okay, this brings us to the next phase of the global ledger, ARC VIII, okay, titled Market Microstructure in Modern Trading. I think people are going to get a lot of probably more interest maybe out of this ARC because it's very finance related. So in the next episode, episode 71, we're transitioning to ARC VIII, okay? And we begin the new ARC with market microstructure and how prices are really made. Because understanding global money, it isn't enough, okay? It isn't enough. You also need to understand how prices form, who provides liquidity, and why markets behave the way they do under stress. ARC VIII moves us from the system level to the trading floor level, okay? And that's where we go next. So that concludes ARC VII, and this is where the ledger gets even more granular. Thank you for listening to episode 70 of the Global Ledger. I'm Justin. Thank you for being here.